Hey, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the post fight show from the Mandatory. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO, and we're going to get into everything. We're going to take your comments as well. We're going to break down the undercard, some of the fights, and what we saw. But of course, we got to start off with Canelo Alvarez getting it done against Edgar Berlanga by unanimous decision. And, no surprise, really. I think people thought that Canelo would win. But I think the bigger surprise was the fact that Edgar Berlanga went the distance. I was one of the people that said, you know what, I think it's going to happen between rounds 5 through 8. Some people had it Canelo winning between 1 through 6, but I thought it was an impressive performance because he was able to last the full 12. But let's get over to the Canelo side, and we're going to get to all your comments, guys. We're going to get to it right after this. The other
Or as many as
question
we can.
is, yes, what is next for Canelo Alvarez? Because there were reports before the fight that he wanted that rematch with Dimitri Bivol. Do we get that Cinco de Mayo weekend?
Yeah, because we're probably not going to see Canelo again until May of next year. So that's a great point on your part. Honestly, I could see that. I don't know if Bivol, like how interested Bivol is going to be, but I mean, money talks, and we'll see. Because business wise, this is interesting because Bivol is kind of working with the Saudis a little bit more, and Canelo
And Canelo's
Alvarez,
like, nah, fam. I
right?
love that. I was thinking about that before the fight because Cool Boy Steph had a hat on after his fight that said Riyadh season. And the only thing that I was thinking about was like, you know what? I love the fact that Canelo, because he's that big. Like I was thinking about today, and this is off topic, but he is the greatest fighter of this generation. Like when I take a look back, like the last 10 years, Canelo's the one name other than Bud, obviously, but Canelo's been doing it for like the last 10 years and he's been so successful. I know a lot of people hate on Canelo and there's some people saying Canelo, but it's hard to not appreciate him. Like I'm at this point, I'm just appreciating watching him fight.
I agree with this comment from Rod, by the way. Love the analysis y'all are providing. Should have
Thanks.
way more viewers. We're working. We're not like we don't do a lot of the smoke and mirrors that a lot of other places do, but I'm not gonna get on my soapbox right now. This is a comment that I wanted to get to also. Ray
Okay.
Swisher. Edgar did a good job of working the ring early on, but Shantelle is right. He had to get off the ropes. Corners did the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think
Well, you're the bigger guy. Like Canelo shouldn't be walking you down, right? And it's like keep the fight in the middle of the ring, move around. Like his footwork isn't the best though. That's the thing. Like I feel like sometimes Edgar can be like like cement foot,
yeah. I
right?
think he needs to figure out a way to not do what he was doing before, because that's not realistic as you level up in opposition. But we need to see that power more often because he has it. It's still there. And another comment, let's stop what we're doing because we have another super chat from Tyrone the Great.
Friend of the show who always
Yes.
donates. Thank you, Tyrone.
Good night of boxing. I want Edgar to get KO'd by Canelo. Canelo looked good. My boy Caleb got the TKO. Cool Boy came back from a knockdown. Beautiful fight. I don't think I want Bud Canelo anymore. I never did.
Yeah,
Terrence Crawford, by the way, tweeted out during the fight, "Put me in, coach."
I saw that. I laughed. I always wanted that fight. Remember how I would talk about it? Like, what if this happened? But then I saw Bud against Madrimov, and I kind of didn't want it after.
No, you can't. I don't want. No.
You know what I mean? Jesus is giving me heat, but I feel like there's other fights to make, and of course we want the one with him and Benavidez. Like
That's the
that
one.
is the only name I think that we want to hear: Canelo Alvarez fighting David Benavidez, because that is the fight with the storylines. That's a pay-per-view fight. That's a blockbuster fight, and it's also the young guy fighting the guy that's kind of been the king in on the pound for pound list for a minute. Depending on where you have him, he's been on that list for a long time. So I think that's the only fight that fans really want to see. But I don't think we're going to get it, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know. We've been talking about this fight. By the way, we haven't been doing the show that long. We've been doing it for a year and a half. And since we started, we've been kind of talking about this fight more or less. Because around the time we started, Benavidez was fighting Caleb Plant. It was around that time. And then I think one of the first things we probably talked about was, all right, Benavidez versus Canelo. What do we think? if it were to happen. Canelo Alvarez fought, I believe, John Ryder. So, this is something that has been brewing for over a year, if I have my time correct. And I still think like I that's the fight that people would want. Like that's the fight that we want to see. We were saying before actually that Canelo Alvarez should fight the winner of Edgar Berlanga and Jaime Munguia if they fought each other. And instead he fights both of them. So
So,
now
yeah.
who's left?
Let's get to this comment by Jesus, because Jesus, friend of the show, this is how he feels about Canelo. Chantel, come on, fake Nello, not the best of this generation. James Tony says it. This is, you can see it right there, era. Fake Nello is part of it. I'll say this, and this is kind of a different take because, like, David Benavidez is also of Hispanic heritage, right? But he's also giving these young Latino fighters opportunities. Like, he gave it to Jaime Munguia, he gave it to Edgar Berlanga. And I think we also have to look at that and give him credit, because once you're on that level, you are getting more eyes on you. Like, we don't even look at that aspect of it, but he is giving these guys opportunities. They're way younger. So there's that. I just want to say that. I do feel like he gives fighters opportunities. I wish he never gave it to John Ryder, but you know what I mean.
Diego Pacheco is apparently the #1 contender for the WBO.
Interesting.
Speaking of giving
Okay.
young guys opportunities, what if he fights Diego Pacheco?
I don't want that yet. No,
Benavidez?
Diego's not ready for that. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Listen, Edgar wasn't either.
I
We were
know.
skeptical. Jaime Munguia was like. There's a world where, and David Benavidez is at least saying publicly that he wants to stay at light heavyweight.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I don't know.
Nonito Donaire, by the way, Joseph, one of my favorite fighters to watch. Chantel, Nonito Donaire been around putting in work way longer than Canelo. Sure, different weight classes, right? But I mean, there's a few fighters that you can mention in this generation. Chocolatito is like one of my favorite fighters of all time.
Tank also, by the way.
Yeah, Tank should be in that conversation, especially for like the newer generation. I think Tank's going to be around for a little bit longer as well. Let's get to some more comments, Brian, because we got a bunch.
Also, I just want to put out there though, like the only acceptable Canelo Alvarez fight for me is Dave Benavidez next. I'll be fine with Bivol. I won't like it, but I'll be fine with it.
I don't want him in Bivol.
I don't want that fight. Because the #1 contenders right now are Diego Pacheco and then Christian Mbili.
I'm like, I want to see Benavidez and Canelo. And if it's not that, then I just don't think we're gonna get Canelo and Bud. It's a dream fight, the weight class. Like, I don't care to see it. All right, let's get to some more comments.
And he don't want to work with the Saudis.